Hurricanes, the most destructive storms on Earth, always seem to come with a blame from climate change these days. But there is something more influential, something that is taking an even more prominent role as the magnetic field of Earth weakens, and that is the sun. A few days ago when this paper came out, I was thrilled to see so many of you remember our past examinations on the topic of solar-triggered extreme storms. So, let's make sure everyone is caught up. Solar activity, or more importantly, the impact on Earth through geomagnetic conditions, is a major trigger of storm genesis and intensification, the development and strengthening of these storms. The analyses have gotten very robust, and while we didn't get many the last couple of years due to it being sunspot minimum, the last sunspot maximum provided a lot of evidence to confirm what was decades of study. These natural disasters are absolutely tied to sunspots, solar flares, coronal mass ejections, and geomagnetic storms, not just their development or their intensification, but their rapid intensification events, the ones breaking what they thought was possible in their models, including every record-breaking storm of the last 25 years. Let's watch a bit of my presentation on this from 2015, which also appeared in our 2019 climate movie.
And so let's take a look at what happens when the sun fires off and when the sun affects Earth in terms of the tropical activity. The KP8, the level 4 geomagnetic storm of this summer, was followed just days later by 6 cyclones popping up in the Pacific. In 2013, we had an X-class flare and magnetic crochet, and just days later we have Typhoon Haiyan. Every single one of those big-time typhoon records are held by either Haiyan or Typhoon Tip, which occurred in October at the exact peak of sunspot activity back in 1979. So, can you guys all see the timestamp down there? Is that sticking out to you guys at all? So we had very, very quiet space weather actually for days and days and days. And then, all of a sudden, the sun woke up. But these were the type of tight, coiled CMEs that you often see really perturbing the inner heliosphere. And of course, this occurred, as I heard somebody say, exactly at the start of Hurricane Katrina. The last time we had an X10 solar flare or higher was just a few days after that event that caused Katrina, and that was an X17. And the mid-month storm outbreak was the very last time before this summer that we had 5 Pacific cyclones at the exact same time. The last time we had a near major solar flare was an X9 in 2006. We had the Hanukkah Eve cyclone strike Washington. And to set a rain record in Seattle is no small feat.
In 2017, the sun had an unexpected uptick in September. It was a furious uptick in flares, including the largest one of the last sunspot cycle, the most powerful flare. And well, let's go back to the 2019 movie for what happened in the tropics. When the first sunspot appeared, Hurricane Harvey ran ashore in Texas, and by the time the major flares were occurring, the hurricanes were surging as well. Irma, Maria, Puerto Rico devastated. Panhandle and Georgia hit hard. It was the last great solar uptick we have had. It would take nearly 2 years of detailed analysis, but the study confirming the direct injection of solar energy into those storms confirmed what most observers already knew. One of the most absurd storm outbreaks in tropical history happened right as the sun unexpectedly woke up and gave us the biggest flare in over a decade. Like I said, sunspot minimum was 2018 to 2020, and the ramp-up was slow in 2021. But in 2022, the sun began to hit its stride. It had an extremely active September. It was one of the first major upticks in activity of this sunspot cycle, and both major northern oceans had a field day with it. There were 3 simultaneous typhoons in the Pacific, including their strongest one of the year, and the strongest storm to ever strike Shanghai. On the other side of the world, a major hurricane outbreak occurred at the same time, with 4 named storms firing up in succession, including the strongest on that side of the world that year, which became the strongest storm in the history of Canadian records, plus another that hit Category 5 and impacted both Cuba and Florida. Hurricane season is about to get underway again right now, and the sun is reaching its maximum of sunspot activity right now. In our textbook, we have all the studies in one place, detailing exactly how much they really know about solar storms and hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones. Much of it tends to be ignored in the climate models. Many of you might recall the 2017 National Middle School Science Champion won his award for proving this connection reaches to coronal hole solar wind streams as well. The ionospheric impact of solar storms has nearly instantaneous transfer of energy throughout the world, and the equatorward traveling waves from auroral impact take only minutes to a few hours. These two inject that energy to the right latitudes, which couples downward through the atmosphere via the global electric circuit. To learn more about how the sun impacts storms, lightning, temperature, and more, including earthquakes, grab the PDF of our textbook at the link below. Eyes on the sun and the hurricane season coming should be interesting here at Sunspot Maximum. I'll see you in the morning.